Yeah, I think we're ready to go. Okay. Do we have anyone online before us?
Hi, Sean Lewis, City Manager.
Thank you, Sean. With that, we'll continue the call to order. Peter Eckel, Budget Advisor.
Steve Ward, Council Liaison.
Tim Dodd, Deputy City Manager.
Andrew, Council or BAC Member.
Laura Cooper, Budget Advisory.
Jay Knight, Budget Advisory Committee. Kevin Ingles, Finance Director.
Jenny Nolan, Budget Manager.
I think that's it. Okay, thank you. We have 4 members. Can we have this meeting tonight?
I think he's going to try to do something with the echo.
Testing. Sounds pretty good. Oh. Okay, moving on. Approval of the minutes. Do I have anybody who'd like to move to approve the minutes from September?
I'll move.
Seconded.
Those in favor? Aye.
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 Thanks, Andrew. Okay, well, we'll give ourselves a minute while we wait for public comment. Okay, no public comment. Let me ask a question. I was on the reserve policy document this afternoon, probably till about 3 o'clock. Did anyone add anything since 3 o'clock?
No.
Probably until about 3:30.
But you did add something? Okay, you can't work that hard, Laura. What did you add, if you mind me asking?
I'd been working on an offline document, so I just copy and pasted my sections.
But we still have some gaps going.
Yeah, I'm going to need some extra time. I had some stolen from me today.
I agree, and this is quite an undertaking, so I think we punt until November, December, but any feedback and then we can decide.
I think November would be enough time, unless anyone disagrees. And it seems like the echo is gone.
Good job. Andrew, any thoughts from you too?
November sounds good.
Okay. Well, let's punt till November, but just please take a little time. Andrew, did I give you a section? On the report.
I haven't got through. I'm not sure. Laura just sent it to me.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to give you one.
Sure, was that, I think I missed the supplemental meeting that we had.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Let me look at this real quick and let's decide. Laura, Jay, any feedback? I mean, I feel like Andrew would like to do a section.
I'd love to do a section.
Did we have anyone online at the beginning? Okay.
Laura, what sections did you add today?
I added trigger 5, the sales and use tax reliance metric, trigger 7, legislative or regulatory changes, and a section regarding timing of adjustments and reserve replenishment.
You're way too effective. Well, I want to give Andrew something. So maybe what we will do is finish the trigger conversation, and then we'll send an email out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Try to give at least a week advance of our next meeting. And Andrew, maybe you can help us just do the summary or the introduction. That works.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks. Okay, moving on. Let's see. And I was hoping James would be here, but we'll miss him today. Maybe this will be one of our easier meetings since we've had, 4 out of the last 6. I'd like to talk about the CIP, or capital improvement prioritization, and was hoping that James would open us up with that, but I know he's real busy. So maybe we can just start the conversation around what we hope to gain from that and identify where the holes are and start working to get that done. I don't know if we gave ourselves a deadline, but I know that was the May meeting, if any of y'all are familiar. I was not here. But we identified several things, and I will look quickly to see if I can pull those out. Any comments, and would someone like to just give a brief recollection of what we discussed?
I'd be happy to have the memo pulled up. Did I cut you off? Great.
I was going off memory.
I'm not sure exactly after the creation of this memo if it has been fully circulated or if this is what we're trying to finalize. But essentially, after completing our portion of the capital requests prioritization workbook, we had discussed a few points of potential improvement or changes to the rubrics. And so what we pulled out is that the elements that most influence prioritization of projects based on how the rubric is written were repairs to existing infrastructure and whether proposed projects enhance safety. And then additional considerations highly ranked the urgency in which the project was classified, whether the project yields economic benefits, and to a lesser extent expands accessibility. So we had some questions about the inclusion of the Parks and Rec requests in light of the approval of the GO bond And then there were just a few other pieces that we wanted to improve. We had really appreciated the tool, but the current iteration kind of narrows the scope of value judgments. So we want to undertake a more comprehensive review of it to discuss modifications around an indication of whether a proposed project has remained on the list of projects for multiple years, an indication of whether a portion of the proposed project is in progress or has been completed, and that it would represent a subsequent phase, what we're deciding on, an indication of the cost of proposed projects within the cost of overall funds available, methodology for giving equitable consideration to less visible departments, and a methodology for reviewing top priority project individually by department versus as a consolidated list across all of the departments. Yeah, so those were the pieces that we had previously discussed regarding the tool.
You nailed it based on our report, and so thank you. I got that up. So we said the committee plans to undertake a more comprehensive review of the tool for the items you listed and offer recommended changes prior to the 2026 annual CIP prioritization process. And then the list which you gave. Englewood Finance Department, just for the group's benefit and of course mine, when is the capital project budget due?
For 2026?
Yes.
We're going to still try to follow the same schedule that we had for 2025 unless we need to move up our schedule. So we'll have a joint meeting with City Council, BAC, and P&Z, I think the second week in April. I want to say April 13th of 2026. I could be off, but be that second week in April.
And we will have already made our selections based on the tool.
This will be the department's initial meeting with you all. So the departments will meet with their respective boards, commissions, committees in determining their capital requests for the 2027 through 2031 5-year period. So you'll just have that initial preliminary list that they have prioritized. And then after that, you all will begin scoring those programs based off of that presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we need to have the tool refined prior to the April meeting so that we can give real feedback during that meeting to P&Z and this.
Yes. And we've received some initial feedback from P&Z. What I would love to do, if you all are amenable to it, after our meeting, after our discussion tonight, is having maybe a meeting in November with P&Z and collectively discuss our requests of modifications to the tool so that going into our 2027 budget period, we'll use that the refinements that you all suggest. See if that helps the process.
Perfect. Is there a way that we could see the 25? And I'm sorry, I know
No, I'm trying to open it up.
you were drug into this.
But my system is just like frozen. It won't, don't know.
It's
Sorry.
okay. If you get it, let us know.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I'm going to read a little more from the outline or from our report. You know, at some point, I'd like us to get away from having homework. But that's how it goes, I guess, too. So I'm going to read through this and just to get the gears turning again, and then if we can take some notes on some of the functional things that need to be reviewed so that we might have a longer meeting in November than tonight. I was really hoping to have Nevin and James here too, but because I think they really, well, James especially really dug into the tool. Not that we can't make decisions. Continue with what Laura read, and just to re-highlight those, thank you, Laura. An indication of, okay, so modifications included an indication of whether proposed project has remained on the list for several years was an issue. An indication of whether a portion of the proposed project is already in progress, and at what subsequent phase will it needed to be completed. An indication of the cost proposed projects within the context of the overall funds. So that was like back to the ranking system, if I remember correctly, and saying like, well, all these are around like safety issues, for example. Do we consider big dollar projects in a priority, or are we considering safety as a priority across all of them? Because certainly that would be a primary concern no matter who's grading this. So I think that's what that one had to do with. A methodology for giving equitable consideration to less visible departments, communications was the example. So just because this is from the communications department, does that mean that it doesn't see the same visibility or ranking for street maintenance, for example, or I should say street capital project? And then finally, a methodology for reviewing the top priority project individually presents a set of recommendations to improve and simplify the city's capital improvement plan prioritization tool. Okay, so I think that was kind of the summary of how we get there. The current process, while functional, could be significantly enhanced to support more transparent, timely, and equitable capital investment decisions. The proposed changes focus on simplifying criteria, improving fairness in scoring, removing stagnant projects, and making the tool more responsive to actual community needs and budget realities. One of the primary concerns is that the current scoring system disproportionately emphasizes safety, which may unintentionally overshadow other important priorities such as equity, long-term infrastructure needs, or community impacts. It is recommended that all scoring criteria be weighted more evenly unless a clear rationale is provided for a project-specific adjustment. Using a balanced score of 5 to set core criteria will help ensure a more comprehensive and fair evaluation process. Another issue is that some projects remained on the CIP last year after a year without receiving funding. To address this, it could be recommended to implement a sunset clause that automatically removes unfunded projects after, say, 3 consecutive years, unless they are resubmitted with an updated scope, justification, and budget estimates. This will ensure that only timely and relevant projects remain in the pipeline, and it will encourage departments to reassess project need and feasibility regularly. Do you remember any of those examples of ones that have been on there 2 or 3 plus years? I'm going to call them rollovers, but I know that they're in that tool, so I think we'll ask the finance department to just circulate that for us again. Additionally, smaller projects currently go through the same lengthy review, which was a big concern of ours. You have a limited budget. Not to say that the small numbers don't matter. In fact, they're maybe easier to get in there. At the same time, the big projects seemingly may have some extra weight. I know bridge repairs has been a big issue. Other various infrastructure needs tend to be larger dollar, but also have a substantial benefit to the community, the city. So the smaller project going through the same lengthy review slows progress and delays improvements that could be completed more quickly. We propose creating a streamlined review and approval track for a small project, particularly those under a certain dollar threshold. $250,000 was selected. Finance department, or anybody in this group, do you all recall what the 25 CIP total funding availability, what that was?
For 2026? Oh, for 2025, I think it was around 11 million.
Okay. Yep. So, yeah, I see. Let's see.
That did drop to 7 million in 2026.
Okay. And why is the funding dropping in 26, just for our benefit?
Mainly because we didn't request a transfer from the general fund for capital and because we knew operations were slowing down.
Makes sense. Thank you. So the funding will be down this year, what I heard, for 26.
And just as a reminder, typically we have between $4 to $5 million available funding for the PIF and capital project funds, capital requests. And we had an additional $3 million this year for one-time project that we're receiving construction or building material use tax from. So it all depends on what kind of development projects are happening in the city.
Makes sense. So we'll be somewhere in the $7 million range is what I heard. Okay. I'm going to finish reading this. I'm moving on. The Parks and Rec example. Several recent submissions have fallen outside of the existing bond planning process. And there was roughly $41 million raised due to voters' approval. To ensure fiscal discipline and avoid overlapping or unanticipated expenditures, departments should be required to align major projects with voter-approved bond funding or long-term capital plans. Unplanned or ad hoc submissions should be limited unless supported by emergency needs or external funding. To improve transparency and public trust, we could recommend publishing project scores, rankings, and selection rationales. Making this information accessible to the public and City Council will foster greater accountability and allow stakeholders to better understand how decisions are made. In addition, departments should be encouraged to engage the public early in the process to validate priorities and build support for key projects. It seems to me that we're going to be a little bit ahead on that this year, given our meeting with the city and P&Z. Further, many capital projects involve overlapping infrastructure, such as roads, utilities, and parks within the same geographical area. The tool should encourage or require cross-department collaboration where appropriate, so that related projects can be planned and executed in tandem. This approach can reduce costs, avoid duplication, minimize disruption to residents. Finally, there may be two administrative improvements. First, a mid-year CIP review cycle should be introduced to allow departments to propose updates or address new priorities outside the annual budget timeline. Second, the tool should include a project readiness checklist that prioritizes shovel-ready efforts. Projects with design completed, permits secured, and matching funds identified should receive higher consideration for immediate funding. And finally, and our conclusion was, together these changes aim to create a more efficient, responsive, and transparent CIP process. By modernizing the prioritization tool, the city can ensure that capital investments are better aligned with community priorities, fiscal responsibility, and long-term planning. What does the committee believe we need to do between now and the end of our meeting on November 6th, I think?
I think an easy one is to determine, like, how long should something stay on the list, and how do we recommend or effectuate removing it?
And Jenny has pulled up some language from the charter. It requires us to remove the funding if the project has not started within 5 years. You could certainly recommend something else, but that's what's in charter right now.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question too. With that 3 million does it need to be used in a specific way amongst any of the items? Like some can't be, some capital projects can't have access to that 3 million. I just don't know if it's supposed to be used one way or another.
That building use tax is, it flows into the public improvement fund.
Okay.
And it's the public improvement fund that will fund, between the public improvement fund and the capital projects fund, that's where those funds will flow. Capital projects fund in and of itself does not have a funding source, so it relies strictly on transfers from either the general fund, unassigned fund balance, or the public improvement fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that building tax, that's paid by what stakeholder? Developers directly. So they say, we're going to come and build this multifamily building, and then they pay us. How is that tax levied, if you can share that? Is it based on a total valuation or some set of project criteria?
Yes, there's an estimate. So you look at the valuation of the project. 50% of that valuation is assumed to be materials. And then based on that percentage, then we multiply that by the 3.8% use tax.
And that tax is paid up front, and then we do a reconciliation once the project is finished to see how much materials they actually did use.
So the city performs what I would call a sales and use tax audit on the developer.
Correct. We audit the entire contract.
Great. That's great. What else? Laura, you have any thoughts? Andrew?
I'm mostly curious, to what point do we need to develop our recommendations to get it into a form that is then usable by whoever will be redeveloping the tool? And I think there is potentially an option to split our requests both into refining the rubric and also adding some standard data fields to the documents that are circulated. One that I don't know if it made the memo, but I don't remember I remember not having a really good sense for infrastructure projects. What was the risk or the potential cost of deferral? Which ones would be more, have a more significant impact for deferral? So that's something I would like to see maybe on the document. And perhaps it was on there. I'm reaching back into my memory a bit.
Well, what would we term that? Opportunity cost or lost opportunity expense? I mean, I don't know if we can put a term on that, but I see your point, and I think that's really valid to say, if we don't do it this year and it's delayed till next year, we're dealing with that much inflation, we're dealing with this much cost that's already been spent, and how can we put that in the tool, right? Because that's not in there. I envision too, like maybe what we need to have set up on a shared document is what the tool looks like today, and have a new tab. Maybe we just copy it over and then we each go through, or maybe we each have our own tab and start kind of recreating what some of the metrics are and part of like what the tool looks like. So, because I think the tool I found very frustrating to use from the sense that it was across a lot of columns. Some of the things, some of the items that were on there were obvious, like safety. Of course, those are going to get ranked. And so I feel like the tool is going to change a little bit in its shape and look. Do you have any thoughts on how we might arrive in the next month, at least on some minimization, but also like incorporating some of these functionality upgrades into the tool or changes.
I don't know how it'll affect function, but I think just having like a one-by-one review of the criteria categories and just looking at what the answers currently are, like, for instance, what you had just brought up, we could maybe have that be seen as part of the urgency category, where it's like, well, this either addresses an emergency, it remedies a condition dangerous to public health and welfare and safety, compliance or regulatory requirements. So there is kind of this, at least, view of risk in there. So I think if we go through the categories first and just kind of look at like how they are currently built, and I would say, like, for me, I want to know, do we feel this category meets the need as is right now? And if not, then we get through all those, we come back to them. The ones that are at not, we say, okay, well, how can we improve this?
Do all of these selections get the same set of criteria? Stupid question, perhaps, but probably would be the answer. I mean, that's right. You have to have a rateable basis, right?
From a usability standpoint, I'd like to see the projects being in the same order as they are on the on
Say
the,
that
the
again?
paper form. The columns, at the very least, they were misaligned with the list of projects as it was in the document, which made it very challenging to jump back and forth and find what I was looking for. That would be a big, I just remembered that. That was probably half of my challenge.
Yeah, I think that should be a pretty easy update. What else today? And what do we, how do you see us making at least some update to the tool by next meeting? I mean, it doesn't have to be final. I think we have till the end of March, let's say, or let's say mid-March. Like reserve policy, there's just so many things that go into this. And I was hoping we'd get some more planning done. Well, maybe we should look at one of these as an example, and then we can decide. Go ahead, Laura.
Me and technology. I don't know what the problem is.
While she's pulling that up, Chair, would you prefer to focus on the one-time projects? Because a lot of these programs they're actually called programs for us. They're ongoing year after year. So we know there's going to be some funding that is used just for those. Most of what the priorities end up being is the one-time projects that are new. It might be something to consider.
If it's okay, Chair, just to add to what Director Ingalls said, this is something we've been working on the last couple of years. So examples of ongoing projects are things like mill and overlay to our roads or facilities maintenance, or the walk and wheel program, for example. And so we definitely would like your guidance in terms of how you'd like us to kind of prioritize those. Or if you'd like us to focus more on the one-time requests that we get that are one-time discrete, shovel-ready projects that don't fit into those other buckets.
I mean, I think that fits into some of the concerns we've had, which is knowing whether or not something has been delayed, ongoing. What risk is it if we push it back one more year? So, I mean, if it would just be as easy as, we have this row and like the first 5 we know are the shovel ready, and then just the final are ongoing. Just some way that it's just easy to know.
So a tab for ongoing projects or ongoing programs versus one-time projects?
It could be a tab or, CPF1, CPF2, and then column M is just a black line. Everything after that to the right is some sort of designation, just
Okay,
some sort of visual separation.
okay. And I don't know how confusing it is to have the two different funds listed by tab. If you'd like just to show a listing of all projects, regardless of where it resides internally for our accounting purposes, we can just have one listing and just show, ongoing programs and then, or one-time projects then followed by ongoing programs.
For me, that would probably be useful. I don't know that, at least in how we ranked and the rubric, that if it really asked us to, if that factored into our rankings at all. So something that's more aligned with the pieces that we're looking at, I think would be really useful for us.
Is it fair to say that ongoing projects somehow have a priority already?
I am curious how much risk there is for something to be going and then to pause it for however long, but it would be based on whatever the project is doing.
If it's okay, Chair, just one thing to add, and would love your guidance about how to do this in the best way. But one thing that we can do is for most of the ongoing programs, we do have like subledgers or specific projects that we do hope to accomplish in a particular year that are part of that bucket, that are part of that program. So what we could do is figure out a way with you of how we could display that information. Could potentially do some kind of sub-prioritization if you want to get that detailed. But I just want to point out that within each of those programs, typically, there are one-time initiatives, but they feed up into kind of an, for example, like we do mill and overlay on certain roads or certain parts of the city every year, that kind of thing.
And so if you're doing mill overlay while you're there, there's a capital need for a pipe, some pipe removal, what have you. You do it when you're on that block, essentially.
That could certainly happen. Of course, in that case, it would be a pipe would obviously be funded by a different enterprise fund, but as opposed to the general fund.
But anything else that was on the project list, right? Thank you, Tim. So I think the first decision we can make today is that we agree that, well, maybe I need to take a motion, but it sounds that we agree that splitting the one-time and the ongoing capital needs should just be a first basic split, so that we are just assured of which ones go where. And then we would have a total dollar amount as well, right? Okay, so that's one thing we'll adjust. What else for today? I'm half tempted to each give us a separate tab, but I don't think we need to copy everything out. I think if we just take one example, or maybe two examples, one that's an ongoing project capital need and one that's a one-time project capital need, and we just each make adjustments to that tool and see where we can find consensus in our next meeting. Any ideas? Or any other ideas?
Well, one question I have is, with what we did last year with this, where is that tool now and how was it used? And like, what was the finished product, I guess, of what we did? Because I don't necessarily have an understanding of how all of our rankings and our choices were filtered through and what effect did they have. Because if I don't know what effect we had with our choices and how these ended up being graded, I don't know kind of how to make things better.
I can definitely share that document with you, because that's what we shared with City Council. But what we essentially did was to take the overall score from BAC, the overall score from P&Z, and then the overall score from our internal capital review committee, average those scores for all the projects and programs, and then came up with a final ranking.
And then we present that to council. They know the total funding that's available. And there's a cut-off line where these aren't going to be funded, but then council can add and switch out.
I would be happy to take a look at the document, the associated document with some of the project descriptions and make some recommendations there. That's one piece I can easily take and feel like I remember pretty well. Be happy to do that.
Okay, yeah, and I think it would be great, and I think be helpful to have a say, here's the projects that got funded, right? And were they funded to completion, or were there projects that only saw partial funding, or were there projects that got scratched or delayed? I think it'd be nice to have a final year-end or forecast report that says, here's where they are today. Do we expect them to be completed, yes or no? And what was the variance on the dollars? Because I'm sure some cost us more too, right? So is there a way that we can see that information, or at what point might that be available?
We can definitely share the 2025 project.
And we do present a mid-year update for council on capital projects, and that's, a lot of that information is in there. We can certainly share that to you. It'll be 6 months old now, but
And then have we made any reporting differential between then and now? Or we kind of just twice a year, mid-year, year-end?
typically, and this was a new request from council about a year ago, so we've just started that process, but we do up them during the budget process, and then we have that mid-year update as well.
Okay, so we do have one from the budget that was just submitted then, I guess.
Yes.
Can we have a copy of that sent to the group?
Sure.
Please? Thank you, Kevin. Do we want to pick a one-time project and a recurrent ongoing capital project? And how do we want to maybe work through separately to adjust the tool to how we think it could be adjusted, and come to some agreement on yes or no for various things next month? Can we pick one of the more controversial one-time projects this year? And do we have a list that we can look at? I mean, I guess we can look at this one, or maybe we need to just circulate that via email. What do you think?
I have not seen this tool or sent through. I don't know if it was distributed at the last meeting when I wasn't here, but it would be really great to be able to see it.
Okay, so we'll have finance send us the final choices, and then also the budget update.
I think if I were to pick two that both came up quite a lot, it would be alley maintenance and bridge repairs.
What was the second one?
Bridge repairs.
And those would be two ongoing programs. Or
I would believe that they're both ongoing. So
makes sense. And any one-timers that we can elect? To make a recommendation based on the criteria and modify the tool where we think we had issues around. How long it's been on the list?
I think
What?
the one of those was the audio-visual upgrades for IT. I think there were questions about, like, how long has it been since we've done this, or questioning how much value. There was just a lot of back and forth regarding that particular topic.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to put on here, I'm going to do all three, alley maintenance, bridge maintenance, since both of those are a little bit different ongoing projects. Probably large dollar amount variance there, and then we'll do a one-time call audio visual for IT. And we'll circulate that document along with, I'll just copy that into a new tab. We'll circulate that. I think we'll just do those three to look at on our initial basis based on the criteria we're using today, and then please redline it so that next time we can sit here and debate what we think in conjunction with the 5 areas that were noted on the annual report, and I will recirculate those as well in the email.
And I'm sorry, the AV stuff was also listed here as ongoing. So, just to pick one of the non-recurring, the Service Center Building 1 repairs.
Okay, so there's our 4. Alley maintenance, bridge maintenance, separately one-time audiovisual for IT, and service center building repairs. Great. So we'll circulate the initial tool elections, the budget update as to where we are and what dollars were spent compared to what was allocated and approved. And then we'll circulate alley and bridge maintenance as 2 of the selections for one ongoing, and for one-time audiovisual for IT, and service center building repairs for one time. And please go through and redline those on your own time, and we will circle back to review those, and we'll circulate a document that is workable. Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they want to talk about today, given that we're a little shorthanded?
I'll just ask for some clarity since I'm newer and haven't seen the whole process. With what we're getting, the rubric and those test examples, is that the entirety of the information that the BAC would get to rank those? Or is there a by project information packet that would have happened?
We do present a capital improvement plan document that gives you the description and justification for the projects. We can share that with you as well.
Yeah, if we can get those and mark the 4 that we're marking to see the rubric so I can match them up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's also a presentation of the departments once a year for those projects as well. So that's another input there.
Has that rubric been provided yet? Just want to make sure I didn't miss it. It did come through. The explanations of the programs, the booklet.
Yes, that was presented back in April.
Okay. Well, I have that one. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And I thought maybe there was a new one. Okay.
We can resend it to you.
Okay.
Great points. Thank you all. It's a little early, but I know everyone's been spending time outside of here, and I will go to city managers or city manager's choice. How about that?
City manager had to leave, but I don't have anything else for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Tim. On to members' choice. Anything you'd like to discuss or add or any consideration?
Kevin, did you have something?
I believe staff choice is next, and I do have something for that.
Okay.
So I meant to ask, I think I asked Tyson, so I'd like to add city manager's choice and city staff choice, or maybe just finance department choice.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we do want to announce that you've probably noticed Tyson's not here this evening. He's accepted a job with the state. So Jenny will be temporarily stepping back into the liaison role for you. We're happy for him and a little sad for us. So
Well, we'll miss Tyson, but we're certainly happy to have Jenny. Go ahead, Jenny.
That's not the reason why Tyson's not here tonight. He's out ill today, but yeah, starting next month, you'll be seeing me more regularly.
Great.
Until we get that position filled, yeah.
Great. We'll look forward to that. Okay, now members' choice. I'll take that as nothing further. I will mention briefly, maybe I didn't do this in order. November 6th is our next meeting. Watch your emails, please. I know we're doing a lot. It wears me out a little bit, but I'm not going to complain compared to what you all have to do in city council. So we are going to have 3 department presentations. City attorney, administration department, and the finance department are going to present. So think about that and bring some questions. And none of those, I shouldn't say, but I doubt any of those have a large capital budget need. They work on their own merits only. They don't need any capital. So that's cool. So we'll look forward to those. And then we will all have added to the agenda a review of CIP. And let's spend 5 minutes on reserve policy as well, just to see where we're at. Because I was hoping we could get that to the city council this month, but I don't think we're quite there. So thank you everyone for coming, and this meeting is adjourned.